Hey guys, this is Ember from MMOs.com, doing a quick weekly news recap of all major MMO news and announcements of the week ending January 27th, 2020. This is episode number 230 of the recap, and the first bit of news this week comes from Pearl Abyss regarding Black Desert Online. The game's much anticipated Guardian class has arrived, along with various in-game events to help players level up. The Guardian's awakening skills and weapons are set to launch in February 5th, with their succession skills coming out over the next couple of months. And somewhat related news too, Pearl Abyss announced that Black Desert Mobile already made over $1.5 billion in revenue, which is incredible. While the PC version of Black Desert Online is still doing okay, the mobile version has been a smash hit in both South Korea and Japan. Unfortunately though, Black Desert Mobile has not been a big hit here in the West just yet. It is possible it'll still do well, but it seems like a lot of these MMORPGs on mobile do really well in China and Korea and Japan, but they don't do very well in the West. We've seen Lineage 2 Revolution. It was a big hit in Korea, not so big in the West. Black Desert Mobile, big hit in Korea, not so big in the West yet, but again, it's possible it might still do well. Next up, some industry news. Tencent continues to grow its gaming empire with yet another acquisition. This time they're buying Funcom, the Norwegian game studio best known for Conan Exiles and Anarchy Online. And as with previous Tencent acquisitions, not too much should change over at Funcom. They'll just have Tencent's backing and will continue developing new games. Tencent is paying a cool $148 million to buy Funcom. Tencent is an absolute giant in the gaming industry as well. They own Riot Games, Supercell, the guys that make Clash Royale, Clash of Clans, those mobile games. They also own Path of Exile, and they own half of Epic Games, and they own a piece of Activision Blizzard, a piece of Paradox Games, and a piece of tons of other smaller game companies. And now it looks like they'll be owning all of Funcom. Also in industry news, Daybreak Games established 3 new mini studios as part of their franchise first initiative. So basically Daybreak Games has created 3 internal studios to take over development of their existing games to better organize their development efforts. The 3 studios are Dimensional Inc., Darkpaw Games, and Rogue Planet Games. Darkpaw Games will be focusing on the EverQuest franchise and develop future MMORPGs, while Rogue Planet Games will focus on PlanetSide and PlanetSide 2 while developing shooters in the future, and Dimensional Inc. Games will be focusing on DC Universe Online and is also working on a new action MMO. Now this isn't exactly big news, they're just trying to divide up their teams to better focus on individual projects. More interestingly though, they are working on a new action MMO on their Dimensional Inc. game studio. I'm curious what that's going to end up looking like. I haven't really heard too much about it just yet, but hopefully we'll get an announcement soon. Up next, Neverwinter's latest update, titled Infernal Descent, which was inspired by Baldur's Gate, is officially live on the PC. Infernal Descent introduces a new endgame campaign specifically for level 80 players, which includes access to a new zone and a new endgame dungeon. It also features 2 new story instances, new characters, enemies, equipment, and more. Neverwinter is currently averaging about 1560 or so players on Steam alone, which definitely ain't too bad. It's definitely doing okay still. Next up, Lord of the Rings Online launched update 25.3 this last week, which included a trio of new Minas Mogul instances for players to explore. Players can now challenge the House of Lamentation, the Halls of Black Lore, and the Fallen Kings. All 3 new dungeons are available to anyone who owns the Minas Morgul expansion. Lord of the Rings Online is definitely an oldie. It launched back in 2007, but it still continues to get updated to this day and still does fairly decently. As for games not doing so decently though, Guardians of Ember, the Diablo-like action MMORPG from Gameforge, announced that it is shutting down on February 14th, 2020. This shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, as the game already shut down once on Steam already, and this new Gameforge version was just a relaunch of an old failed game. The Gameforge version launched on January 2019, so it lasted a little over a year before shutting down. To be honest, it's just way too hard to compete with Path of Exile, which is hands down I think the best Diablo-like ARPG on in the market at the moment. Anyway, rest in pepperoni, Guardians of Ember. Next up, we get some more interesting news to look at. Superdata Research released their December 2019 top grossing games list, and most of this shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, but it's still pretty neat to see Roblox climbing up the list as one of the top grossing PC games. I've been saying it forever now, but the idea of a player-created content in an MMORPG is still a hugely untapped market. League of Legends is still the highest grossing PC game, though it does change places once in a while with Dungeon Fighter Online, but it looks like Fortnite's popularity is waning a bit as it's falling in the rankings on both console, and it's not anywhere in the top 10 for PC or mobile, so it's definitely falling a bit. Up next, Temtem, the Pokemon-inspired buy-to-play game, finally launched into early access on Steam. I'll keep this one short as I did mention it last week, but it's off to a pretty incredible start already. Steam chart shows the game hitting over 39,000 concurrent players online at any given time, which is pretty solid. It also has mostly positive reviews on Steam as of this video as well, which is definitely a good reception for the game considering their launch was a little bit rocky with some server stability issues. My biggest gripe with the game right now is the limited number of Temtem in the game, but that's to be expected for an early access title. Plus, they said they'd have over 150 by the time the game leaves early access next year. I'm impressed with this one, and if you're curious about it, do check out my first look video for it on the MMOs.com YouTube channel. Next up, Amazon Game Studios explains how PvP is going to be working in their upcoming MMO New World. They originally expected to launch it with a Rust-like open-world full-loop PvP system, which was available in playtesting, but they did a total 180 on that, and PvP is now completely opt-in instead of being open-world PvP. Players had to participate in 50 vs 50 PvP siege battles and territory control that they have to opt into. And the reason behind this move, according to Amazon, was that some high-level players were griefing lower-level players, which in any open-world game is bound to happen. I mean, have you ever played Rust or Ark? I mean, these things do happen. This doesn't explain the total 180, because as far as as back as 2018, New World talked about safe zones, criminality systems, and a bunch of other anti-griefing systems to be put into place to stop this. But anyway, going from full loop PvP to opt-in PvP is a huge change in design, and obviously some players are upset, but clearly New World thinks they'll reach a broader audience this way. The game is launching on Steam in May, so we won't have to wait too long to see if their new strategy ends up working. I do think it was probably a smart idea from a business perspective, because I don't think the full loop PvP system appeals to a lot of people, though it does appeal to me, but I don't think it appeals to a lot of people. Up next, Tree of Savior. Yes, the game is still around and doing surprisingly decent. They announced they'll be launching a brand new server soon, as well as wiping inactive team names. This should all be happening on January 28th, so tomorrow. Tree of Savior averages about 1,380 or so players on Steam, which for an MMORPG isn't too bad. It's definitely down from its peak at launch, but the game looks to have stabilized a bit. And if you haven't played this one, honestly, I think it's worth playing just for the BGMs alone. There's pretty incredible music in Tree of Savior. Next up, some pretty big news from Riot Games. Riot Games is finally Riot Games, the plural, because Legends of Runeterra, their collectible card game, also their answer to Hearthstone, is finally live in open beta as of this last week, and there'll be no more wipes going forward because it is an open beta. While the game is technically in open beta right now, the game will fully launch sometime later this year. Although players don't need to wait for the full launch to start playing Ranked, which is available right now in open beta. And with how big Hearthstone and Magic the Gathering is, I'm curious to see if Legends of Runeterra will find an audience, but given that it's Riot Games, they can promote the game on their own platform. I think it'll do pretty well. I might do a first look for this one relatively soon, so keep an eye out for it. Next and last in news this week comes from Tera, which is finally launching its Purpuri Brawlers update on consoles tomorrow, January 28th. This update has been available on PC forever now, but the console version of the game remains quite a bit behind the PC version. The update adds a new race/class combo to the game, the Purpuri Brawler, of course. For PC players, the new Ice Dragon mounts are available in-game now as well, but of course are cash shop only. Anyway guys, that's it from MMO News this week. I'll see you guys next time. Later guys.